Hello, dear students of Class 10 of Hutchings School, Talegaon. This is Priyanka Upadhyay, your physics teacher, and today we are going to learn our next chapter, that is chapter 3, machines. So in this video, we are going to cover a part A, and in this video, we are going to learn about machines, functions and uses of machines, load, effort and fulcrum, efficiency calculation, and we are going to learn about the relationship between efficiency, mechanical advantage, and velocity ratio. Further, we are going to learn about the levers and the classes of levers. Okay. So, in the beginning, we will just try to understand what is machine. When we say the word machine, we will suddenly think about it may be a washing machine, or it may be a grinding machine, or it may be any big machine. But actually, a machine is a simple device which makes our work easier and faster. Okay, see, uh, for example, if you take a scissor, okay, if you take a scissor, it is a simple machine which makes our work easier and faster. If you take a knife, it makes our work simpler and faster, so it is also a machine. Okay, so we have many machines which makes our work easier and faster. Okay, so next thing, here we are going to learn about the functions and uses of simple machines. Okay, so what are simple machines? Simple machines are made up of very few parts, and they simply change the direction or the magnitude of force. Okay, they are made up of very few parts and they simply change the direction or the magnitude of the force. Here. So we will learn about the functions of machines. Okay, first function. Machines work as a force multiplier in lifting heavy load by applying less effort. See here, machines work as a force multiplier. See here, what we'll do, if the to lift a car, okay, to change the tire, to lift a car, what we will do, we will use a simple machine, that is jack. See here, by applying small amount of force, we can do a large work here. See, just by applying small amount of effort, force, what we are doing, we are doing a large amount of work. Example is here, a jack is used to lift a car, bar is used to lift heavy stone, a spade is used to turn the soil, pulleys are used to lift heavy load. A wheelbarrow is used to carry a load. In all these examples, the effort is much less than the load. So the machine acts as a force multiplier. If the effort is less than that of the load, so we call that machine as a force multiplier machine. Okay, so the examples are jack, spade, pulley, wheelbarrow. Second one, second function of simple machine. Machines helps in changing the point of application of effort to a convenient point. See, the rear wheel of a cycle is rotated by applying effort on the pedal attached to the toothed wheel, which is joined to the rear wheel with the help of a chain. Thus, the point of application of effort is changed from pedal to rear wheel. See, you are applying force effort on the pedal, but it is connected to the rear wheel. Okay, so what happens in this case? It helps in changing the point of application of effort to a convenient point. Rear wheel is responsible for the rotation of the cycle, sorry, motion of the cycle. So the pedals are helping. Okay, when you apply effort on the pedal, what happens? The application is done on the wheels. Okay, so the third one is machines helps in changing the direction of effort to convenient direction. Okay, machines helps in changing the direction of effort to a convenient direction. See here. If a bucket full of water is lifted up from a well without use of pulley, if you try to pull up a bucket which is full of water from a well, it will become little difficult to you. But when you use a pulley, when you take the help of pulley, here a pulley is a simple machine which is helping you to lift the water bucket. Okay, see when you use pulley, what happens? Easily, just by applying little amount of force, bucket comes up. So machines help in changing the direction of effort to a convenient direction. Fourth one, machines helps for obtaining gain in speed. In some cases, what happens? Machine helps in gaining the speed. Here, pair of scissors used to cut the cloth. Its blades move longer on cloth while handles move little. Here, when you cut the paper or cloth using scissors, what happens? Your hands move little on the cloth, but the blades moves longer on the cloth. So in this case, what happens? Effort is reduced. The blade of a knife moves longer by a small displacement of its handle. Here, effort is more than the load. Okay, in both these cases, what happens? Effort is more than the load. But the distance moved by the effort is less than the distance moved by the load. That you will understand after some time. So, definition of the machine. What is machine? Machine is a device by which we can either overcome a large resistive force at some point by applying a small force at a convenient point and in a definite direction, or by which we can obtain gain in speed. See, machine is a device by which we can either overcome large load. So what is load? You are using a scissor and you are cutting a cloth. In this case, cloth is a load. Okay, and on scissor, wherever you hold the scissor, you are applying force. That is your effort. Okay, so machine is a device by which we can either overcome large resistive force. It means you are overcoming the load and you're doing some work at some point by applying small force. You'll apply small force, but you can see the large difference in the work at a convenient point and in a definite direction, or by which we can obtain gain in speed. Okay, in case of scissor, what happens? There will be gain in scissor. Effort moved by the machine will be less, but the distance moved by the load will be more. We know that effort is more than the load, but still, what is happening here? We are overcoming that load and we are cutting the cloth. Next one. So there are some terms which are related to machines. Okay. The first one is load. See here. First case, you're cutting onion with the knife. Second example, you're cracking a nut with a nut cracker. Third one, you're digging soil with the spade. In all these cases, soil, onion and nut, these all are load. The opposing force to be overcome by a machine. We are using nutcracker to cut the nut. So that nut is a opposing force. We have to overcome that. So that is a load. Second one is effort. The force applied on the machine to overcome the load is called the effort. So to cut a nut using nutcracker, you are applying some amount of force. Yes. So that force is nothing but the effort. To cut the cloth, you are applying some force on the handles of the scissor, and that is nothing but effort. Third one is mechanical advantage. Okay. Mechanical advantage is nothing but the ratio of load to effort. We know that how much load we have taken and how much effort we are applying. If we take the ratio of load to effort, we will get mechanical advantage. Okay. So in this case, what happens here? The mechanical advantage will be equal to 1 if load and effort are equal. When load and effort are equal, mechanical advantage will be equal to 1 mathematically. Second, if load is greater than effort, what happens? If load is greater than effort, then mechanical advantage will be greater than 1. And if the load is less than the effort, it means effort is greater than the load. So in this case, what happens is the mechanical advantage will be less than 1. So mechanical advantage is a pure ratio. It doesn't have any unit. Next one is velocity ratio. So what is velocity ratio? Velocity ratio of a machine. Okay. The ratio of the velocity of effort to the velocity of load is called as velocity ratio of the machine. See here, the ratio of velocity of the effort. How fast the effort is moving and how fast the load is moving. Okay. How fast the load is moving, how fast the effort is moving. It is nothing but the velocity ratio. So velocity ratio, it is the ratio of velocity of effort to the velocity of load. So we know that what is velocity? Velocity is nothing but distance divided by time. Velocity of effort is nothing but distance traveled by effort divided by time. And velocity of load is nothing but distance traveled by load divided by time. T will get cancelled. So what you will get? Velocity ratio is nothing but distance traveled by effort to the distance traveled by load. Velocity ratio is also defined as the ratio of the displacement of effort to the displacement of the load. Okay. Next one, work input. See, the work done on the machine by the effort is called work input. You're doing some work on the machine. Yeah, you're doing some work on the machine while doing the work. And that work is nothing but, work input. The work done on the machine by the effort. You are applying some effort, and that effort, what it does, effort is nothing but force into displacement, that does the work, and it is known as work input. Work input is nothing but work done by the effort. Next one, work output. Work output is the work done by the machine on load. It is called the work output. See, work done by the machine. You are applying some effort on the machine, that is work input, and machine is doing some work on the load, that is known as work output. The last term is efficiency. Okay, so what is efficiency? Efficiency is represented by letter eta. Okay, you can see the symbol here. This is called eta. Efficiency of a machine is the ratio of work output to the work input. If you take the ratio of work output to the work input, you will get the efficiency of a machine. But usually the efficiency of the machine is calculated in terms of percentages. So efficiency will be equal to work output divided by work input into 100. Okay. Okay. So the next thing is principle of machine. See, when energy is supplied to a machine by applying the effort, it overcomes the load by doing some useful work on it. When you apply some energy, so what happens? Using machine, you apply some energy, and that energy, that effort overcomes the load by doing some work on it. Okay. So the point at which the energy is supplied to machine by applying the effort is called effort point. See here, the point at which the energy is supplied to the machine by applying the effort is called effort point. In simple words, see here, in nutcracker, see here, on both the handles you are applying force. So that point is effort point. Knife, you are holding at the end. Okay, you are holding at one end. Okay, and that is the effort point. And the point where the energy is obtained by overcoming the load. See here, the point where energy is obtained by overcoming the load is called load point. There will be some point in the machine. Okay, there what happens? Where the energy is obtained by overcoming the load. It means we are doing work. Okay, so that is called load point. Next one, we have input energy and output energy. See here, whatever the work, whatever the energy you are supplying to a machine will be your input energy. Whatever the energy which is given by the machine is known as output energy. In other words, input energy will be equal to work done at the effort point. You work on the effort point. So that will be your input energy, energy given by you to the machine. So that is nothing but effort into displacement of the point of application of effort. Okay, see here, that input energy is nothing but work done at the effort point, and work done at the effort point is nothing but force into displacement. We know that work done is nothing but force into displacement. So here we can say that effort into displacement of the point of application of effort. Okay, so the output energy, what I have said, the energy which is given out by the machine is called output energy. So where will you get this output energy? At load point. Okay, so work obtained at the load point is known as output energy. So output energy we can represent it as load into, that is work done is nothing but force into displacement, and here for the output energy the force is load itself, load into displacement of the point of application of load. So for ideal machine, what happens? Output energy should be equal to input energy. Whatever amount of energy we are supplying, that should be backed by the machine. But usually this will not happen due to the resistive forces, due to the wear and tear, due to the friction. Okay, the useful work done by the machine can never be greater than the work done on the machine. Otherwise, we will violate the principle of conservation of energy. Therefore, no machine can ever have efficiency greater than 1. No machines can ever have the efficiency greater than 1. It will always be less than 1. Next one is ideal machine. So, what is ideal machine? See, An ideal machine is that in which there is no loss of energy in any manner. Hence, the work output will be equal to work input. Ideal machine is something where what happens? The output energy will be equal to input energy. Okay, so there will be no loss in energy in any of the manner. That may be friction, that may be heat, that may be any of the resistance. Next one, actual machine. Actual machine, in actual machine, the output energy is always less than input energy, whatever the machines we are using. Okay, so in this case, the output energy will always be less than input energy. Why? Because of friction, wear and tear, heat, and the resistive forces. Okay, so that is actual machine. In actual machine, what happens? The output energy will be always less than the input energy. Okay, so the loss of energy in machine may be due to the following reasons. Those are: the moving parts in it are neither weightless nor smooth. Okay, so they are friction. Here, if the moving parts of the machine are having friction, that is the reason the output energy will be less than input energy. The string in it is not perfectly elastic. If the string is perfectly elastic, then there would be no friction or no resistance offered by the machine. So now in this case, what happens? The string is not perfectly elastic. It means the output energy will be less than input energy. Third one, its different parts are not perfectly rigid. See, if parts are not perfectly rigid, what happens? There will be friction. Again, there will be friction. So therefore, output energy will be less than input energy. Okay. Next one is relationship between efficiency, mechanical advantage, and velocity ratio. See, if machine overcomes a load L by the application of an effort E in time T, then the displacement of the effort be dE and the load be dL. So we know that work input is nothing but effort into displacement of effort. So effort into displacement of effort is D. So work output is load into displacement of load. Therefore, if we write efficiency, work output divided by work input. So from these two, work output and work input, we can write L into dL divided by E into dE. So L by E into dL by dE. Nothing is changed here. So we know that load by effort is nothing but mechanical advantage, and dL by dE, distance moved by the load, distance moved by the effort divided by distance moved by the load is known as velocity ratio. So here efficiency will be mechanical advantage divided by velocity ratio, or we can say that mechanical advantage equal to efficiency into velocity ratio. So this is the relationship between mechanical advantage, velocity ratio, and efficiency. Next one, levers. Okay, so now we are going to learn about levers. Okay, so what are levers? Lever is a rigid straight bar which is capable of turning about fixed axis. The axis about which the lever turns passes through a point of lever is called fulcrum. Okay. So lever is a rigid straight bar which is capable of turning about a fixed axis. Okay, just a minute. Okay, the axis about which the lever turns passes through a point of lever which is called fulcrum. there will be a point about which the lever turns, and that is known as fulcrum. Okay, it is generally marked by the letter F. Fulcrum is represented by the letter F. This point does not move but remains fixed when the lever is in use. When we use lever, okay, what happens? Fulcrum does not move. Fulcrum remains fixed when the lever is in used. Okay, students, now we will study about principle of a lever, okay, or the mechanical advantage of a lever. So this figure 3.1 shows a lever AB with the fulcrum at F. You can see it, AB with the fulcrum at F. Okay, and effort E is applied at a point of the lever. See here, effort E is applied at this point, okay, at this point, and it overcomes the load L. Load is here, so this effort is overcoming the load at point B. From the fulcrum, the distance FA to a point A. From the fulcrum, distance FA. So this part is known as effort arm, and from the fulcrum to B till the load, this is known as load arm. Okay, so for an ideal lever, what happens? It is assumed that the rod is weightless and there is no friction at the fulcrum. Now, see here, this is class 1 lever. So we will learn what are class 1, class 2 and class 3 levers. So in this, in class 1 lever, what happens? The fulcrum will be in between the effort and load. In class 2 lever, what happens? The load will be in between the fulcrum and effort. And in class 3 lever, what happens? The effort will be in between load and fulcrum. Okay, so in this case, see here, from effort to fulcrum, whatever the distance is there, it is effort arm. From load to fulcrum, whatever the arm is there, it is load arm. Here also it is same. Okay, so next is, a lever works on the principle of moments, according to which in equilibrium position of lever, the moment of load about the fulcrum must be equal to the moment of effort about the fulcrum, and two moments must always be in opposite direction, as we have studied this in first unit. Okay, moment of forces. See here. In that figure, moment of load about the fulcrum F is clockwise. See, moment of load about the fulcrum is clockwise. So this makes the clockwise moment, and this efforts makes the anti-clockwise moment. Hope you are understanding this one. Okay, so clockwise moment of load about the fulcrum should be equal to anti-clockwise moment of the load about the fulcrum. So clockwise moment of the load about the fulcrum is nothing but shear. Clockwise moment, force into displacement, force is E. Effort into effort arm should be equal to load into load arm. Effort into effort arm should be equal to load into load arm. That is nothing but load into load arm should be equal to effort into effort arm. So load is L, load arm. From this figure, from that figure you can check the load arm is FB. So effort is E and effort arm is FA. So if you take load divided by effort, it will be FA divided by FE. And we know that mechanical advantage is nothing but effort arm FA divided by load arm FB. So that will be equal to, that is load by effort is nothing but mechanical advantage, and mechanical advantage is nothing but effort arm FA divided by load arm FB. So this relation is known as the law of levers. The mechanical advantage of lever is equal to the ratio of length of its effort arm to the length of its load arm. So in this condition, see, mechanical advantage will be equal to effort arm divided by load arm. So when the mechanical advantage is 1, the effort arm and load arms are equal. And when the mechanical advantage is greater than 1, effort arm should be greater than load arm. And when the mechanical advantage is less than 1, effort arm should be less than load arm. Okay. Okay, children. So now we will study about the kinds of levers. So there are three classes of levers, that is class 1, class 2 and class 3. Okay. So first we will learn about class 1 levers. In class 1 levers, what happens? In class 1 lever, fulcrum will be at the middle of the load and effort. Load and effort will be on the either side of the fulcrum. So in this type of levers, the fulcrum F is in between the effort and load. See what I said, fulcrum is in between effort and load, but fulcrum need not to be at the midpoint of the effort and load. Fulcrum may be here, fulcrum may be here, fulcrum may be here, fulcrum may be here. Okay, it need not to be at the midpoint of the load and effort. So in this case, what happens is, see here, the fulcrum need not to be at the midpoint between load and the effort, but the load and effort are on either sides of the fulcrum, and the load and effort will be acting in the same direction. Load and effort will be acting in the same direction. For example, see here, take example of scissor itself. When you move your hands, okay, when you apply effort on the scissor, the direction of the load is same as the direction of the effort. Okay, so some examples are seesaw, pair of scissors, crowbar, handle of water pump, claw hammer, pair of pliers, beam of physical balance. These are the examples of class 1 lever. Okay, so just a minute. So when the effort arm is longer than the load arm, in case of class 1 levers, if the effort arm is longer than the load arm, so what happens? The mechanical advantage and the velocity ratio of the class 1 lever will be greater than 1. Such levers are known as force multipliers. That is, it enables us to overcome large resistive force. For example, shears have much longer handles as compared to its blades. Okay. Similarly, crowbar, claw hammer, pliers and spoon have long handles. Okay, it means effort arm is greater than load arm. Next one, for an ideal class 1 lever, if the effort arm and load arm are of equal length, then mechanical advantage and velocity ratio both will be 1. See, physical balance you can take as example. See, both the arms equal in length has their mechanical advantage and velocity ratio 1 itself. When the ideal class 1 lever has effort arm shorter than the load arm, what happens? Mechanical advantage and velocity ratio will be less than 1. Such levers are used to obtain gain in speed because the velocity ratio less than 1 implies that distance moved by the load is greater than distance moved by the effort. Okay, for example, you can take scissors whose blades are longer than handles. So in this case, effort arm, the distance moved by the effort arm is lesser than the distance moved by the load arm. Okay, so one more example, a long handle oar used for rowing a boat. Okay, so in this case, what happens is the point at the edge of boat at which the handle rests acts as the fulcrum. You might have seen in, or just go through your page number 53 from your textbook, figure number 3.3. So what happens? the effort arms are lesser than the load arm. Okay, so in this case, boatman applies the effort on one end by keeping the effort arm shorter than the load arm, so as to give larger movement to the blade of the oar to push water back through long distance. The force of reaction exerted by water on the boat moves the boat forward. Here, the mechanical advantage will be less than 1. So here it gives the speed. So we can call this kind of machines as a speed multipliers. Okay. Next one is class 2 levers. In class 2 levers, what happens? Load will be in the middle and fulcrum and effort are on the either side of the load. For example, bottle opener. See, here are some examples. So this is class 1 lever, fulcrum is in the middle. So here also this is class 1 lever, the fulcrum is in middle. Okay, this is class 2 lever here. Effort is here, load is here, and lever is, this is lever, effort is here, load is here, and the fulcrum is here. This red color triangular, this thing is fulcrum. Okay, so this is class 2 lever. Okay, so in nutcracker we can see it clearly. See here, this is fulcrum, a point about which the lever turns. This is the point about which the lever turns. So this is fulcrum. So this is load and this is effort. So what happens in this case? The fulcrum and the effort are at two ends of the lever and the load is somewhere in between the effort and fulcrum. The load and effort are on the same side of the fulcrum but opposite in direction. See here, the load and effort are on the same side of the fulcrum but they are opposite in the direction. Okay, so this is about class 2 levers. The mechanical advantage of class 2 levers is always greater than 1. Okay, it means effort arm is always longer than the load arm. See here is fulcrum, here is load and it is effort arm. So definitely load will be in the middle. It means the distance from the fulcrum to the effort point is greater. That is the reason effort arm is always greater in class 2 levers. So it is the mechanical advantage is always greater than 1 for class 2 levers. Okay, one more example of class 2 lever, bottle opener. See here, fulcrum is here at this point and this is the load. Okay, and this is the effort. So here also effort arm is greater than load arm. That is the reason mechanical advantage is greater than 1 for class 2 levers. This is also example for class 2 lever. Okay, next one is class 3 levers. Okay, so in this type of levers, the fulcrum and the load are at two ends of the lever and the effort is somewhere in between the fulcrum and the load. Okay, effort is somewhere in between fulcrum and load. And but what happens here? The effort and load are on the same side of the fulcrum. See, effort and load are on the same side of the fulcrum, but here also the direction of effort and load will be in the opposite direction. Therefore, the mechanical advantage will be less than 1. Since the effort arm is lesser than the load arm. This is load arm from fulcrum to load. Okay, so from fulcrum to effort, it is effort arm. So in this case, what happens? Effort arm will always be less than load arm, and that is the reason mechanical advantage and velocity ratio are always less than 1. The mechanical advantage and velocity ratio of class 3 levers are always less than 1. Here, one more example. A short handle oar used in a boat race by a boatman acts as a lever of class 3. Short handled boat. Okay, so what happens in this case? In this case, load will be load arm will be greater than the effort arm. So that is the reason there will be a gain in the speed in these kinds of levers. There will be gain in the speed. Okay. So next one. Some examples of each class of levers as found in human body. In nodding action of head. Okay, nodding action of head. See here, what happens? The spine. Our spine acts as a fulcrum and the load is the front part while the effort is rear part. Thus, it is an example of class 1 lever. The load is your head. Okay, so that is load is the front part and effort is the back part and your spine will be fulcrum. So this is a class 1 lever. Class 2 lever, example for class 2 lever in your body is raising the weight of a body on your toes. When you raise your weight of the body on toes, what happens? Toes at the toe point, it acts as fulcrum. Okay, and load will be your body weight. Effort will be acting by the muscles at the another end. You can go through a textbook and you can refer this. Okay, so this is the example of class 2 lever. Third one is class 3 lever in raising a load by forearm. Okay, you are raising something. Okay, you are holding mobile phone in your hand. So that mobile phone is nothing but the load and your elbow point will become fulcrum and your forearm, your bicep exerts effort. Okay, so your bicep exerts effort. So this is lever of class 3.